Right now, above your head, there's a clock ticking that you can't see. It's the sun, and in about 1 billion years, that clock runs out, and life on Earth ends. Not in a fireball, not in some sudden cosmic explosion. Slowly, quietly, one species at a time. We love to picture the end of the world as fire, the sun swelling into a monstrous red giant and swallowing the planet whole. And that does happen, but it's around 5 billion years away. The truth is, life here is finished long before the sun ever touches us. And the strangest part is this: the very last living thing on Earth won't be a human. It won't be a lion, or a shark, or a cockroach. It won't even be an animal at all. To find out what it actually is, we have to do something a little unusual. We have to walk forward into the deep future and watch the living world shut down piece by piece, like the lights of a huge city going dark, block by block, in the middle of the night. Everything starts with the sun, so that's where we begin. Our sun is a middle-aged star, and it has a habit most people never think about. It's slowly getting brighter, not in a way you could ever feel. Not over a year, or a century, or even 1 million years, but roughly every 100 million years, the sun shines about 1% hotter than before. 1% sounds like nothing. Stretched across deep time, it is an execution in slow motion. Here's the mechanism, because it's beautiful and a little bit cruel. Earth has a built-in thermostat, a slow cycle where carbon dioxide in the air reacts with rock and rain and gets buried, locked away in stone. When the planet warms, that thermostat runs faster, pulling more and more CO2 out of the sky to fight the heat. For hundreds of millions of years, it actually works. But there's a catch. Carbon dioxide isn't only a greenhouse gas. It's food. It's the raw ingredient every plant on Earth pulls out of the air to build itself. So the same process that's trying to keep the Earth cool is quietly starving the entire foundation of life. And once you starve the plants, everything above them starts to fall. Fast forward. Somewhere around 600 million years from now, that slow bleed of carbon dioxide crosses a line. The level in the atmosphere drops too low for most plants to photosynthesize at all. And when I say most, I mean it. Roughly 99% of plant species alive today use a form of photosynthesis that simply switches off when CO2 falls this far. Picture it. The forests thin out and die. The grasslands turn to dust. The moss on the rocks, the algae in the ponds, the crops in the fields. The entire green skin of the planet withers and browns and blows away. A handful of tougher plants hang on a bit longer, the specialists that evolved to grab carbon even when it's scarce, but they're a last stand, not a comeback. Because when the plants die, they stop doing the one thing we never thank them for. They stop making oxygen. Every breath you take is a gift from something green, and in this future, the gift stops coming. The oxygen in the air begins, slowly, to drain away. Now the collapse speeds up, and there's a clear order to who goes when. The big animals die first. Large mammals, including us, if any humans are somehow still around, need enormous amounts of food and oxygen, and both are disappearing at once. Right behind them go the birds. For a while, the planet belongs to the survivors of the middle, the animals that can handle heat and scrape by on less. Fish, crowded into the last deep, cool pockets of ocean. Amphibians in the shrinking wet places. Reptiles with their slow, efficient metabolisms, basking in a world that's becoming an oven, but the sun doesn't stop. About 1 billion years from now, it's fierce enough to start boiling the oceans in earnest. And this is where it becomes a runaway. Water evaporates into the sky. But water vapor is itself a powerful greenhouse gas. So more evaporation traps more heat, and more heat drives more evaporation, faster and faster, feeding on itself. High above, ultraviolet light rips the water molecules apart, and the hydrogen leaks away into space, which means that water is gone for good. It never rains back down. Ocean by ocean, the blue drains out of the Earth. What's left behind is a scorched, cloudless, red-tinged world that looks far more like Venus than like anywhere you'd recognize. So in that furnace, who is actually left alive? If you know one animal built for the apocalypse, it's probably this one. The tardigrade, the water bear. It's smaller than a grain of sand, and it is almost stupidly hard to kill. Freeze it to nearly absolute zero, and it survives. Heat it past boiling, and it survives. Blast it with radiation that would tear your cells to ribbons, and it shrugs it off. Dry it out completely into a tiny lifeless husk, leave it for years, then add a single drop of water, and it wakes up and walks away. We have literally launched these things into the naked vacuum of space, exposed them to the void, and brought them back alive. If any animal has earned the title of the last one standing, surely it's the water bear. And for a stretch of that dying world, tardigrades and a few other microscopic, stubborn creatures probably are the last animals on Earth. But here's the twist that catches everyone. Even a water bear has a breaking point. All those superpowers let it pause its life and wait out bad conditions. But to actually live, to grow, to reproduce, it still needs liquid water, and it still needs something to eat. And on a planet whose oceans have boiled into the sky, both of those finally run out. So even the toughest animal we've ever found quietly takes its final bow. Which leaves us with the real answer. The last living thing on Earth isn't an animal at all. It's a microbe. And not just any microbe, the kind that never cared about our sunlit surface world in the first place. Kilometers below your feet, deep inside the hot rock of the crust, and clustered around scalding volcanic vents, there are single-celled organisms that live on raw chemistry instead of sunlight. They breathe metals and minerals. They thrive in heat that would cook anything else. To them, a dying, overheating Earth isn't the end of the world. It's practically home. As the surface turns first to desert and then to a sterile oven, life doesn't fight it. It retreats, down and inward into the last warm, damp cracks in the rock, where a thin trickle of water and energy still survives. And here's what gets me. Those microbes could hold on for an almost absurd amount of time, hundreds of millions of years after the last plant browned, after the last animal fell, after the last tardigrade went still. They are the true endurance champions of this planet, but even they are living on borrowed time. Somewhere between roughly 1.5 and nearly 3 billion years from now, the heat finally reaches all the way down, the last pocket of water dries up, the final cell goes quiet, and in that instant, with no fanfare, no witness, Earth stops being a living world and becomes just another dead rock orbiting a dying star. There's something almost unbearably poetic about how it ends, because we think life on Earth began this same way, as simple microbes, maybe clustered around those very same hot vents, nearly 4 billion years ago. So if this is the finale, then life closes exactly the way it opened, as one stubborn cell, alone, in the dark. Everything in between, the coral reefs, the dinosaurs, the redwoods, the whales, every human being who ever lived, every song, every war, every person you've ever loved, this video, you sitting there watching it, all of it was one brilliant, temporary chapter, sandwiched between two single cells. But I don't want to leave you feeling small and hopeless, because there's another side to this. 1 billion years is an amount of time your brain genuinely cannot hold. Complex life, animals of any kind, has only existed for about 600 million years. So the deadline we're talking about is further into the future than the entire history of animal life reaches into the past. That is a staggering runway. It's enough time for life to transform into things we couldn't begin to imagine. And maybe, just maybe, it's enough time for life to do the one thing that would cheat this ending completely: to leave. To carry a spark of this planet out to another world and light it somewhere new, long before the last cell on Earth goes dark. The sun started this clock a long time ago, and it will not stop. But what happens with the time that's left? That part hasn't been written yet. If this rearranged something in your head, you should know Earth has come terrifyingly close to the end before, more than once, and not 1 billion years from now, but in the past. That story is even wilder than this one. I'll see you there.